What up, YouTube? T-Movies here with the new film All Is True opening Friday. Since besides Helen Mirren, I've already did a best Helen Mirren movie last year. The film does star Sir Ian Mckellen, who's been in the entertainment business for decades. Like he's done everything from Broadway. He's done lots of movies over the years. I mean, Ian McKellen he's the man. Who doesn't love Ian McKellen? So with that being said, here's my 10 favorite Sir Ian McKellen movies, because he was knighted, of course, so I'm calling him Sir Ian McKellen. Alright, coming in at number 10, it's actually a recent one, but it's actually not all that bad. It's a film called All Is True, which is like a film about, William Shakespeare. It's directed and starring Kenneth Branagh as William Shakespeare. And here, Sir Ian McKellen plays the role of Earl, the Southampton. And I really thought Sir Ian McKellen was great in this, and of course his on-screen chemistry with Branagh's Shakespeare was great. Now McKellen has done lots of Shakespeare-based movies and plays over the past, so he's no stranger for anything Shakespeare related. And here you also had Judi Dench as the role of Anne Hathaway, and fun fact, not to mention Dench and McKellen are also going to be in another movie pretty soon, which is the Cats movie, which comes out in December. Ian McKellen looks really cool in that, by the way. Anyway, yeah, I mean, All Is True isn't really like my favorite film of the year, nothing like that, but I thought it was pretty decent. Coming in at number 9, it is the film Scandal. Not to be confused with the ABC show with Kerry Washington, obviously. Now, Scandal stars the late great John Hurt as Stephen Ward, who's like this regularly employs attractive young women as a professional party guesses to like impress his influential friends in the British government. And one of these women is played by Joanne Wally Kilmer, who has an affair with both Britain's Minister of War John Profumo, played by McKellen, as well as Eugene Ivanova, played by Joanne Krabbe. And so there's of course it's based on true stories, directed by Michael Caden Jones. Really crazy, scandalous based movie. Crazy it's based on a true story, like crazy that it's actually happened in real life. Really good film. Great performances by McKellen. Wally was great. Really good film. If you guys haven't really seen Scandal, give it a go. Kind of underrated too. I mean, it's probably one of the most 1980s films lots of people never really talk about, but it's really good. Alright, coming in at number 8, it is, of course, a Shakespeare film, and that will be Richard III. And it stars McKellen as Richard III, who descends into madness and all. And the setting is transposed to the 1930s, with England is like torn by civil war and all. And you also got Annette Bening in this. Jim Broadbent plays the Duke of Buckingham. I mean, this is a really good Shakespearean based film. McKellen as Richard III was great. Annette Bening was terrific. The direction was pretty decent. Yeah, Richard III it's a very slow film, like a slow-paced film, but it's actually pretty decent. And McKellen really, dive into the role of Richard III. Alright, coming in at number 7, it's Apartment, APT Pupa. Now, it's like a very nasty little movie that's made almost like watchable by strong performances. As Sarah, like you got the late Brad Ranford, who started as this high school student studying the Holocaust, who also ends up noticing that his neighbor, played by McKellen, resembles a former Nazi war criminal, and so he ends up trying to expose his identity unless he provides him with gory details of his crimes. And it's actually based on a book by Stephen King, and it's directed by Bryan Singer, who was, of course, him and McKellen have worked together before on the X-Men films. So this was like before the X-Men. Like, yeah, actually, I believe this was trying to remember. I think this was probably Singer's directing debut. I could be mistaken there, but yeah, this was a APT Pupil was pretty good. Brad Raffel. I mean, shame he gone way too soon. He was a really great young actor. And it's a really intense thriller. It's a very like ugly melodrama at times, and McKellen's performance, as this unrepentant monster who's being tortured by a teen, is some crazy film. If you guys haven't seen it, give it a shot. All right, coming in at number 6, it is Beauty and the Beast. Now here McKellen voices the fussy clock Cogsworth, while um, and Ewan McGregor also voices the Candlestick Luminaire, and it's directed by Bill Condon, who and now of course him and McKellen have worked together a couple of times. Obviously, they just worked together on The Good Liar, which comes out this week, and they've done other stuff together. But Beauty and the Beast, like I really quite liked McKellen as the role of Cogsworth. I thought he really voiced that character perfectly. Like his, Cogsworth and Luminaire's like on-screen chemistry with each other was pretty cool. Cogsworth like on-screen scenes with Emma Watson's Belle was pretty decent. Yeah, I really got a kick out of the remake of Beauty and the Beast. Alright. Coming in at number 5, speaking of Bill Condon and McKellen collaboration, number 5 is going to Mr. Holmes. Mr. Holmes is a really good film. I mean, you've got Sir Ian Mckellen as an aging Sherlock Holmes. You got and the film has like a heart in Holmes' relationship with the young son of this like no nonsense housekeeper, and the young son played by Marla Parker, while the housekeeper is played by Laura Linney. This is a very different Sherlock Holmes adaptation. Like, obviously, there's been so many adaptations of Sherlock Holmes, whether you talk about the Downey Jr. one, or Holmes and Watson, or maybe Benedict Cumberbatch's Sherlock. But I really quite liked Ian McKellen as a very older Sherlock Holmes. Like it wasn't really much of a mystery film as most Sherlock Holmes based stuff are. But Mr. Holmes was still pretty decent. Great performances by McKellen. I mean, I'm a little surprised McKellen didn't get an Oscar nomination for this, because he was actually that good in this movie. But yeah, if you guys haven't seen Mr. Holmes, it's really good. Alright. Coming in at number 4, it's the Hobbit trilogies. Now, this is the prequel to The Lord of the Rings. And you of course got Bilbo Baggins, played by Mark Freeman, who teams up with Wizard Gandalf, played by McKellen, and Dren Dwarfs to reclaim their mountain's home from the dragon Smaug, voiced by Benedict Cumberbatch. So, if you want to look at it, this actually has like 2 Sherlock Holmes in it. You got McKellen, who of course played Holmes in Mr. Holmes, and you got Benedict Cumberbatch, who played Sherlock Holmes on that Sherlock miniseries. But anyway, I really got a kick out of the Hobbit trilogies. I mean, they're not as good as the Lord of the Rings films, but they're pretty decent. The CGI is great. It was really cool to see, despite being like a prequel and all, it was pretty cool that they actually decided to get Ian McKellen back instead of like a younger version of Gandalf. And yeah, the Hobbit trilogies, I really got a kick out of them. I mean, Peter Jackson, of course, directed them. Obviously, he directed the other Lord of the Rings films. And yeah, and we of course had like not 1 but 3 Hobbit movies, and all 3 were pretty decent. Alright, coming in at number 3, it is Gods and Monsters. Now, this movie is also directed by Bill Condon. I mean, Bill Condon and McKellen they're an interesting collaboration. And this is a prolific film about the life of Frankenstein director James Whale, and it also features the last days of his tragic life and all, and he ends up becoming like Wells was like this openly gay man who in a time when like most homosexuals were like locked behind closed doors and all, and he ends up like he also has like a relationship with this young man played by Brendan Fraser. You had Lynn Redgrave who plays the disapproving housekeeper, and I mean this movie also like showcases his creation of Bride Frankenstein and all. I mean Gods and Monsters is a really decent film about a really iconic horror director. You know, I mean, McKellen as James Wells, I know that was really great casting. Bill Condon did a great job. I mean, I believe this was actually the movie that really put Bill Condon on the map for most people. I could be mistaken. I mean, I'm pretty sure he directed other stuff before Gods and Monsters. And the on-screen relationship between McKellen and Brendan Fraser was great. I mean, yeah, Gods and Monsters was a really pleasant, good film. And I believe McKellen got an Oscar nomination. I mean, he didn't win, but definitely a well-deserving nomination. Alright, coming in at number 2, it's obviously the Lord of the Rings trilogies. I mean, of course, Lord of the Rings and Hobbit are two, very different, obviously they're both still Lord of the Rings, but they're still, like, very different films from each other. And, McKellen as the role of Gandalf, he really plays Gandalf well. I mean, of course, he put the iconic line of, "You shall not pass." I mean, really iconic line. And like his cool chemistry with like the other characters here, whether you talk about the older Bilbo Baggins or maybe or Frodo and all. I mean, McKellen really portrayed Gandalf. Granted, I never really read the Lord of the Rings book, so I don't know how much how is Gandalf in the movies compared to the books. But yeah, McKellen's Gandalf was still a really great character and great like McKellen really gave a solid performance, and he of course been playing the role like in not one, in about 6 films. The first 3 Lord of the Rings films and the Hobbit movies, and I believe he also played the role again in a couple of video games and other stuff too. I mean, he really embodied the role. I mean, I really won't even be surprised if with that Amazon Lord of the Rings series, I guarantee you, Sir Ian Mckellen gonna return as Gandalf. There's no inside information. I have no inside information on that. But I guarantee you, we're going to see him back as Gandalf in the Amazon series. You mark my words there. But anyway. Alright. Now, Gandalf is not the only iconic character that McKellen is best known for. My number 1 favorite Ian McKellen movies of all time goes to the X-Men films. Mine, obviously, minus the third one. And I mean, McKellen has been playing the role of Magneto, who is probably one of the best X-Men villains there is. But he's been playing that role, like, he's played the role in X-Men 2, Last Stand, but we don't talk about that one. He returned as the role in X-Men Days of Future Past. I mean, Michael Fassbender, he was pretty good as Magneto, but I still really prefer McKellen's portrayal. Before this, McKellen has been known for, like, mainly had attracted more older audiences, but with stuff like X-Men and Lord of the Rings, he ended up attracting a much younger audience. And people today will probably when you think of McKellen, you'll actually think of Magneto, or there will be another group that will think of maybe there'll of course be another group that will think of Gandalf. I mean, McKellen has some really iconic characters, and Magneto is definitely one of them. I mean, and not to mention McKellen's on-screen chemistry with Patrick Stewart's Charles Xavier character is really great, and like the effects they used for Magneto was great. I mean, Magneto is such a really awesome villain, and shame we're probably never going to see McKellen reprise this role again in the near future. But he still did a great job as the role over the years. So anyway, that's pretty much it. Let me do the quick rundown. 10. All is True. 9. Scandal. 8. Richard the Third. 7. APT Pupa. 6. Beauty and the Beast. 5. Mr. Holmes. 4. The Hobbit trilogy. 3. Gods and Monsters. 2. Lord of the Rings trilogy. And 1. The X-Men films. Now, he's been loads of other stuff over the years as well. Let me pull up his credit list. Like I say, he's going to be in the Cats movie, which comes out next month. His other projects includes the Da Vinci Code with Tom Hanks, Golden Compass, Flush Away. He was in Stardust, Last Action Hero, King Lear. He was in that horrible anime movie Dougal. I mean, not everything McKellen was in was good. He was in that Alec Baldwin classic The Shadow. He was in that the Anthony Hopkins movie Dresser. Yeah, some really interesting stuff. But let me leave it to you guys. What are some of your favorite Sir Ian Mckellen movies? And for the heck of it, which iconic character you prefer the most? Gandalf or Magneto? Drop comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell for more notifications. This here is Sir Ian Movies signing off.